to your day. Make me everything you require to create everything that you desire. Remember, healing is destructive. Remember, healing is destructive. You are deserving, but you are not entitled. And that level of accountability and understanding that you are not entitled is what's going to take you to that level of honesty to shift into the higher aspects of yourself. Remember, healing is destructive. Your truth is destructive. That's why the truth fucks you up first before it does anything else. We in that full moon, that Aries energy. If you go look at my story, peace. If you go look at my story, what's up? If you go look at my story, I made the post as part 1 through 14 or part 1 through 15 of the TikTok video I did this over the last couple of weeks, over the last couple of days. I've been doing the opening videos to start the aspect of the day, and we're going into progress, going into aspects of the process. And it made me think, if you haven't seen that post I made about the book, What to Think and How to Think, that's one of those go-to books as a reference point to understanding the aspects of imitation, discipline. It's one of those books, a Gnostic education book. It pairs very well. It's so very well. It pairs so very well with the other book. I've created a book list and I put it in the lecture. So if you're not aware with the lectures, Gotico Alchemist, the link's in this description. If you're not aware with my TikTok, where I'm doing more of those videos, doing more of those breakdown videos, TikTok, hit me up on, follow me on that TikTok, so you can get it in all directions. It's all coming in. But it made me think about the gears of war. You only got 2 gears. I want you to think about this. A lot of times, think about it with yourself when you're always thinking about what people thought. What people thought. And thought being in the past tense. So every time you thought about what somebody thought about you, the only way that you could react was based on the past aspect of yourself. So the gear of reverse. Everybody trying to take me out my character, trying to make me go back to the old me. Think about that power of that thought. There's only 2 gears. You only got 2 gears. Drive and reverse. That what to think keeps you in reverse. It keeps you reverting. Even though you're in the same place, it just keeps you reverting. You're always in that past sequence of thought. You're always thinking about the what, and when we break it down, just go into the deeper thought. If you have never seen never have seen this post, I'm gonna go look for it on my TikTok, but I was watching the video. And he was like, people discuss, there's 3 different levels of people. And then I broke it down. I was like, oh, that's mankind, humankind, humanity, and the creator, or your God, or who you are. And I made the thought, I was like, mankind discuss people. That's mankind. Humanity discusses events, places, and the consciousness, the God consciousness, that consciousness, your higher self, it discusses ideas, solutions. It synthesizes problems. That's why now let's go back. You only got 2 drives. You got 2 drives in between these paths. Your mankind being your animalistic nature, the people that you've created, the variations in your space. Then you got humanity, the path of the heart. So whatever's on your heart to do mankind. Then you got your higher self. So what would you think? Based on what you think is what you receive. Based on being in that gear of going in reverse. It made me really start thinking about when people are always like, we got to go back to being something. We got to go back to being a king, a queen, gods, goddesses. We got to go back. We got to take our earth back. They're in a past thought. They're in a train of what to think, the past thought, so everything's based on reaction. Because I've been thinking about it as I've done my integrations and now provide what I provide based on the integrations. I'm really not I'm based on that how to think. So now I look at another example. I don't care what others think. I don't care what others think because it was a thought. Because it requires me to stay in the image or the perception of what I was at that point in time. Not challenging my perspective. Everything that comes into your space is working for you, not against you. It's forcing you to challenge your perspective. So my perspective is in my why. So if I'm always thinking about people, if I'm always discussing people, or if I'm always discussing people, I'm thinking about what, I'm thinking about when, I'm thinking about the what and the who. But I never tap into the when. So the when is the events and the places. But the how I got to that point, or how do I assess that point, that's only found in the why. The why is the highest aspect of my thought. So now if I think about my subconscious from an unhealed perspective, not doing the internal work, not assessing these old memories, repressings, then everything that I see, my humanity fights for. My heart fights for it. My heart is torn to fight for it. So now I think about it. Mankind fights for humanity. Mankind fights for humanity. Humanity fights for whatever its God is. So I don't have to say that I'm trying to be human, because in order to be human in the physical state, that means I must be in the higher state of my consciousness, in my subconscious, creating what I have based in my humanity. So then you go further down, you look at your actions, your behaviors, your patterns, and your actions. Your behaviors, your pattern of behavior, your pattern that's your habits and your go-tos. That's mankind. If I'm the creator, I want you to put it like this. If I'm the creator, then everything that I create, every creation has free will. You've read that in the scriptures. You heard that in the scriptures. Every creation has free will. Every creation has free will. Based upon the laws or what's in the subconscious mind of the program, as long as it's within the program. So everything in my space everything that I create has the free will based on the program that it came from, the original spark. So everything inside of my space is based on that program. So if I think about the program of fear, survival, fear, lack mentality, struggle, all of those narratives, everything I shall create shall be based and relevant or present in the free will of as long as it stays within struggle. As long as it stays within struggle, lack of accountability, not assessing, always going through the assumption, looking for the worst case scenario. So everything I create inside of my space becomes present based on that. That's my drive. So now that I say that I'm going forward or I get stuck, I'm not stuck. I'm not stuck. What did I put in park? What did I put in the neutral space? Those are the other gears that come into the space. What did I put in that neutral space? What did I put in park? What do I keep parking what of my thoughts keep getting stagnant or I get stuck on in that state of the complacency? That's what I have in park. That's the block that I create. So now when I'm moving into my space and I'm doing my day-to-day, how I start my day sets the tone of my day. It's not about me. No problem. It's not about me denying that I am on the run. It's learning how to better maximize the control or the flow, or me living in the flow of the run. For me, my example is the example I use, I started going to the gym. Now I'm into my running. I'm up every day the same time. 15 minutes, I explained this in the video. First 15 minutes of my day, the only thing I do to my phone is I hit the dismiss button on time. That's symbolism right there. That's my first symbolism in the physical. As soon as my alarm goes off, I hit the dismiss button on time. So think about if you keep hitting the snooze button. That means you keep putting the snooze on time. That means you're not accepting time. You're putting the snooze on it. You ain't ready to deal with it. But as soon as the time comes up, I dismiss it. Now I meditate 15 minutes. Take my 15 minutes to meditation. From there, I'm thinking about the day. One of the most simple programs is grab you a bottle of water, put a bottle of water beside the bed, put 2-3 bottles beside the bed. Take that bottle of water while you meditating, while you sitting there holding your thoughts, while you sitting there honing your thoughts, everything you thought about, sit there holding that bottle of water in your hands. Think of what you can use the mudras. And think about holding that bottle in your hand and what are you trying to bring into that day. Just sit there and hold the bottle for about 15 minutes. Just sit there and hold it. Take that deep breath in. If you're good at doing Kegels, fellas, you can do Kegels too. Pull up on the sack, pull that energy in as you're holding it and cycle it all the way through the thought. Hold it. Allow it to cycle through. That energy you're visualizing going into that bottle. Starting off, if I'm irritated, I'm working on my irritation. If I'm going to start working on this. And then you pull that bottle. At the end of my 15 minutes, the next alarm goes off. 15 minutes, dismiss. I'm now dismissing exactly the microorbit. Now I'm dismissing I'm not dismissing what is coming up. I'm dismissing my blockages. I'm dismissing all blockages. I'm becoming open to the space. I'm in gratitude for everything I'm going to learn in the day. Say Ashe, whatever your power word is, whatever word you've given yourself. Mine is be fucking great. It's the same as Ashe for me. That's my spell. Take my water, get up, start my day. I might do some push-ups. I might do my 30 push-ups. But before I leave out the house, now it's dark outside. I'm in my darkness. I'm in the darkness. Take my first full sprint up into this little space up here in front of this little joint up here in front of our apartment complex. So now I'm in that space. Remember, I'm a manifesting generator. So now I sit up there and I'm like, okay, cool. At first, based on what to think, I'm going to break this down. This is the coolest shit ever that I thought about when I was thinking about it. Because I made 2 videos of that. You'll see the other video later on in the day. So I'm sitting there with myself and I'm thinking to myself, yo, all of these thoughts are so fresh in my mind. I've already done the journaling process. I've already done my journaling. I've already done my scribing. I've already done journaling. I've already done this. I've already done that part. But the key of everything that you're doing, similar to your meditation, the key of you learning your meditation is to go into it, to learn how to sustain yourself in a meditative state. That means you are open and you are aware. Right now, I'm in a meditative state. From the moment that I wake up to the moment that I lay down, I'm in that meditative state. I'm in awareness. I'm in full accountability. I'm in full counter mode. I'm open. Therefore, when I go to sleep, when I program myself to go to sleep, now I'm in the astral aspect, going back into my thoughts. So when I wake, so now I'm aware in both spaces. I'm a God. You got to become omnipresent. So I'm present in my subconscious mind. I'm aware what's in there. And as you go through the process of integrating your dark nights of the soul, going through your shadow work, we go through therapy sessions. As you go in closer, you become more and more. This is when if you've ever seen that post, when you start taking your spirituality seriously, all that shit will start making sense. That's what it is. You are integrating. See, the love and light aspect is to keep you, okay, yeah, I'm going to take when you're thinking about keeping your spirituality, when you're thinking about taking this shit seriously, your process, you're thinking based on the what to think. You sitting in that space based on what to think, not how to think. See, basing in that how to think, now when I'm in a full meditative state, it matches my ability to be nonchalant. It matches my ability to stay clear and stay focused. It allows me to sit in that space and move. But it was a process to get to that, because all of those triggers, all of those, every what that you had, every who that you had, every when, every one of these variations that you had inside of your space that you had, those are all the things you're going to have to deal with to get to that point. But see, because that trauma response, remember that difference. That trauma response was, my trauma response was, I'm speaking my mind, nobody's going to play me, nobody's going to do this, nobody's going to do that, nobody's going to stop me, but I'm reacting because I'm in thought. Because I have not looked at the thought that led me to even create that thought process in my life. So my perspective is stuck on one route. My perspective is stuck on one route. Everything must come through this one route. A lot of us are stuck on one route. We keep saying, that's why we're thinking about what to think. What to think is irrelevant to the process, and how to think is irrelevant to the progress. Because when I'm focusing on how I'm thinking and how I'm thinking, I'm in the present state. Therefore, everything that comes into the space is based on how I'm thinking. Now I'm in that motion. As opposed to me going what to think, now I'm going in reverse. See, that traumatic response got you living in reverse. But it's there for a reason. See, there's no problem with what to think, how to think. It's about learning how to assess it. Remember, you're already in balance. You're already in balance. You're already consistent. What degree of consistency are you in? What degree of balance are you in? Are you in the degrees? Because if I'm in a degree of consistency based on everything's a distraction based on control, i.e. comfort or reaction, then everything in my space is going to has to match those reactions. So now it's obstacle, i.e. debt. So now I'm sitting there, okay, cool. Obstacle means debt. So now my mindset is on obstacle. I had to synthesize that to myself. Where did I learn this obstacle verse of debt with myself? So now everything that I'm doing is based on what I'm thinking and how to get through the day. So now the day is happening to me. The day is happening to me. That means everything in my space is happening to me. It's not happening for me. That how to think had me thinking, okay, everything's happening for me. There's a reason that this person is here and they're triggering me. Instead of looking at it as me just trying to get through the day, because as long as I'm trying to get through the day, that's where them trauma bonds come in. Guilt. That's where the guilt comes up. The avoidance. That's where the neglect came in. That's where all of that shit came into your play. That systematic of thought. So you can now compartmentalize it. So you know what, I'm avoiding this today to get to this. But if I'm taking time to myself, what am I doing with that time? It's based on how I think, not what I think. There's a difference between me sitting here saying that I'm tired, but I'm not doing anything based on what to think. All I'm going in is, I'm tired. This is how I'm tired. This is when I'm tired. That's all I keep going in. I never step into the how to deal with it, because that's the accountability. That gear of war. Now I got to go forward and drive. See, a lot of times I was stuck in reverse. I was stuck in reverting. So every time that something happened, every time that I expounded some information, by the natural order of my perspective, I'm automatically thinking that it ain't true enough, because I didn't understand how to simplify it. How to think is simplifying the process. Me trusting the process is accountability. So now you're shifting your shift. Because the more open I become, the more available I am to the gratitude of the space. Everything in the space is working for me, not against me. Everything in the space is working for me, not against me. Whether it triggers me, it makes me really sit down and think to myself. Whatever it is, it's forcing me to really think about it's forcing me to really think, not stay in thought. So now everything inside of your space that triggered. Let's use an example of a trigger. Think about when you were little. Something as simple as the first time you were told to, I'll give you something to cry about. Let's use that. Something so simple something like a little blip. That's how we don't think about it. I'm going to give you something to cry about. Now, in every possible way, because of my perspective as a child, anything that dealt with getting to that point, I'm going to test. Naturally, you're a child. I'm going to give you something to cry about. You're going to remember every time that somebody said that to you, I'm going to give you something to cry about. Every single time. I'm going to give you something to cry about. What came behind that, that's what you put under that list, in that compartment. Now, you learned compartmentalization. I'm going to give you something to cry about. These are the examples of giving somebody something to cry about. All right, cool. These are the definitions that I learned about giving somebody to cry about. All right, cool. So now, every time crying, emotion, crying, sorrow, depression, sadness, anger, fear, whatever it may be, now I'm sitting in that space. Now I have this whole directory that my mind will go to in the program of my subconscious. Now I got this whole directory online for everything to go to. Similar to my happiness, similar to my sad, whatever it is, in a line of these emotions, I have a directory to go to. If I'm not accessing this directory consciously, it's being accessed unconsciously. So now that goes into the what to think. So now I have all of these examples of my what's. But in order for me to understand the why, I got to go through this directory. That's you going into that internal work. Our brains work on it's association. Why you think whenever you go, think about when you were little, think about I remember going through psychology class, the little ink blots and learning all these little aspects, that word association game, all of these things that you've learned. It's all to keep you in that same process. As funny as it was, there was a video with King K-Ron. And he was talking about, he was like, he hates taboo. And in the opening, it was like something that you put on your burger. And they said condiments. It had ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, had the condiments. The dude kept yelling out hot sauce. That was not one of the answers in the taboo question. And he kept yelling out hot sauce. Hot sauce, hot sauce. But that's how your mind associates. It associates based on your experience. That's why when you go into a space, when you think that whatever gear that you're in, that's what you're searching for. Remember, reverse would be me associating with assuming what's behind me. Let me look back behind me as I'm going in reverse. That's the only time I'm using reverse, is to take the assumption of something might be behind me that I can hit. But where did I learn that? So now, when I advance, now that I'm given a new advancement, new information, new knowledge, that rear view camera, where I don't have to look back anymore, I still won't use the rear view camera. Exactly. So you sitting there in that space, I'm like, oh shit, I got a rear view camera I'm not using. Why? Why in my mind can I not look forward and look at this camera that's going to help me go back? Because of my dependency. Because now, since I'm not assessing it, now I start using the camera. Now I don't look behind me. Now I'm dependent upon the camera. On either side, because I have not assessed how to implement this, I'm now using this instead of using something else. It's still good for me to look back. I'm looking at the camera. Guess what I now forget? I forget that I got rear view mirrors. So now I'm not using the rear view mirrors. I'm only using the camera. So now if anything comes up on the side that I can't see through the camera, now I have another circumstance in my life. Shit. I didn't see that behind me. I didn't see that bike. I didn't see that. It came in my blind spot. As you're doing your healing and you're changing this aspect, changing and you're coming into your new perspective, you're taking this is when we talk about that bird's eye view. You're taking yourself from the blinder aspect. You're taking yourself from the blind spots, the blinder aspect. You're taking yourself from that space. It's time to take these blinders off, because these blinders are your traumatic experiences, your karma, the karmic mindset. So you stuck on this side of your head. This is my left, your right, instead of you coming into creation. So as you make that function and you move around, now you start seeing everything for what it is. Now you're processing. In the second video that I did that I'm gonna upload, I was thinking about my walk, and I was thinking about the process. I was like, at first, during my process, I was focused on how my distance of my run, how far I get in my run. When I wake up, it's 7 miles that way. So 7 miles in total, there and back in my run, 5 miles. So 2.5 one way, damn near. No, it's about 7. Go one way, so it's about 14. Now, in that space, I'm focusing on my run, my pace. I'm setting my new pace, because I'm not going to sit here and kill my damn self trying to outrun some shit. It's a marathon for me. I'm not going to kill myself. So now, in that same thought process, this is how your mind starts to create you start creating that new junction. I'm like, all right, cool. If I want to get up and do this run, and I already have things in front of it, my job or whatever it is, now in my mind, now I got to wake up earlier. So now I'm waking up earlier. I've been waking up for 4:30 for the last 2.5 years now. For like the last 2 years now. Wake up at 4:30. Before I woke up at 4:30, it was because the traditional 9 to 5. Now I wake up at 4:30. Now whatever time, as I'm looking at that aspect, it's like, okay, cool. I keep telling myself that I didn't have time, but now it's like, what was really the trigger? It wasn't that I didn't have any time. It's just that I wasn't ready to change my perspective or assess the emotions that came with me waking up early. Because how many times did I tell myself, man, I ain't waking up that damn early. I got to go to work in the morning. But in that same thing, since I'm in reverse on thought, trying to hold control, now I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, if I got to wake up early in the morning for work, now I'm trying to give myself the excuse of trying to take control of my day. I'm going to go to sleep, because now in my mind, I'm trying to make it rationalize it. I wake up at 11 o'clock. I don't go to bed till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So no matter what information came in, I wake up at 3 or 4. I'm up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So I can get about 3 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep. Now I'm irritated, mad. Now I'm blaming my lack of sleep on something because I got to go to work. I'm blaming my lack of sleep on the kids, you blaming the lack of sleep on everything else. But instead of looking at you. Until I got to the point where I was like, okay, cool, I'm waking up at 4:30. Now I'm up at 4:30. Yesterday, when I meditated, I woke up at 4. This was up at 4. And I sat there and I meditated for about 49 minutes. Just sat there for about 40. It's been a while since I did like a over 45 minute meditation. Sat there for 49 minutes. And I'm like, I'm feeling good. Then I laid back down. I just did it in reverse. Because usually when I wake up, I scan my body. This time, I was, hey, nigga, meditate, then scan your body. I meditated, scanned my body, then got up and started my day. So now I'm going through this new process. Now that I mastered my run, I can go further. I can change up some routes. Now I go back this way. I'm cooling down. Now that I've gotten used to cooling down on this aspect, I got my pace set. Now I'm noticing that when I'm finishing my run, I'm getting done earlier and earlier with the run aspect of my run. Because before, when I took the run, I would get up there around 7:30. Then I saw, based on how to think, not what to think. Then all of a sudden I looked at my phone. I'm like, nigga, it's 6:30. I'm up here already. So damn, now it's 6:15 and I'm getting up here earlier. I can go a little bit further. So when I come back this way, I'm like, damn, it's like 7:30. I can walk a little bit longer. But now I can assess a new route. Because since I started doing the video before I start my run, let me do the cool down video. I'm thinking about in my mind that I need to create content for lives, everything, create content, but I'm not expanded past a certain point of how I create my content. I'm thinking about, I got to create content that's funny and all. No, it's informative. I'm creating a new information. So now, since I'm present based on how to think, I have a gang of thoughts going through my head when I'm running. I have a gang of thoughts going through my mind because I'm running. Even before I even start my run, I got a gang of thoughts going through my mind of different things that I've assessed, different downloads that I've already assessed. But by the time I'm done with my run, I didn't lost that train of thought. I'm trying to hold on to that. So since I'm holding on to that limitation in my mindset, I'm limiting my body's ability to go forward. Because your body only goes as far as your mind allows it. So if I got a limitation in my mind, no matter what the limitation is, it forms the thought, it forms the emotion into my mind, into my body. It creates that limitation within my life. But now that I'm sitting there, I ain't got no limitation. Let me take this quick run real quick. I'm out the house by 5:55. Kiss on the forehead, I'm out the door. 5:55. By 5:55, I done ran. It's like around 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, start the video. Today's video increased. Before the video was 3 minutes. Then it became, as I became more comfortable in the space, I could start to expand. As I got more comfortable in the space, I started to expand. Because just like when I thought about going back, association, when I started doing lives on Facebook, the video would start at 15 minutes, 30 minutes, then it got up to 45, then it got up to an hour. Then after it got up to an hour, I was like, okay, cool. I can create an hour of content, organic content, questions, points, answers. So now because before that, I was like, I'm going to start a YouTube channel and do all this other shit. No, I wasn't ready for that. It wasn't organic. It would have been a GMO. I would have had to try to stay relevant with my emotion, but I didn't learn the emotion yet. So now when I started, if you go back to the first video lecture that I did, the first lecture that I did on my YouTube channel was the reaping. First one on my YouTube channel, the reaping. That was the first video I did, 9/13/19, I believe. First video I did. The lighting was bad. All I had was my laptop sitting in front of me. One of them floor lights from Walmart. And I'm sitting there, glasses on, just sitting there speaking. As I was getting more comfortable inside the space, I already had time. Time wasn't a factor anymore. I already knew I could master the aspect of that. Now it was the aesthetic. See, now I'm going in, out. Now I'm going in, out, in, back. Now I'm creating. So now when you see the videos now, as you go through the growth of the video, organically you see me making small changes. It can be the site. It don't matter where you start as long as you start. I got the little video here. All right, cool. I got the light here, got the lighting. All right, cool. I want to put the background music to it. Ooh, heard. So then I'm sitting there with that space. I'm like, all right, cool. Now I got this going. Now I got the light. Now I'm adding new functions. Now I'm thinking, okay, cool. Now when I get into the space, now question and answer. Now when you're coming into the lectures through the process, now the question and answers have become live readings. That's when learned how to create the service. So now when you're inside of your space, you are creating the ultimate opportunity as long as you're moving in that how. As long as my mind is on the process of how, I'm not thinking about the progress. So everything organically comes into the space as it needs to come in. That means everything that needed to be assessed for me to get to that point, I'm in gratitude for it coming into the space. Therefore, I'm not stuck in a sense of dependence, or that must be present in order for me to stay relevant inside of that emotion. Think about it to the aspects. I've talked about this before. When you are relevant to an emotion that you have not yet identified, that means you have anger issues, but you're not to the root of your anger. Everything in your life gonna make you angry. Relevant to your own anger. Relevant to your anger. You're going to get different variations of anger in your things that make you angry inside of your space, and they're all going to give you the answer. Thank you, thank you. So I'm sitting there like, ooh, I like where I'm in this flow with my, but now I'm looking, I'm like, oh shit. That's why that came into the space. That's why this happened. So now as I'm going back doing the shadow work, ooh, that's why that happened. Now it makes sense. And the more and more that I become outside of this, ooh, it's good or it's bad, I'm looking at positive and negative. And I've talked about that before. The positives, like one simple analogy of a positive. When you were little and you got breastfed or you got some formula, some Similac, it served you. It was very positive. Just because you can't go back and say, hey, mom, I need some breast milk, it doesn't mean that it wasn't positive. It didn't change. The polarity, that aspect didn't change. It didn't become negative. It just positive. It's a positive point that doesn't serve you. In your this is how you understand the development. Just like the negative shit that happens. Just because it happened and it was negative at the point it didn't serve you, it doesn't mean when you go back to you in the learning aspect, now it's going to serve you. That's how you go back to your negative. This is how you start assessing your perspective. This is how you start shifting those gears. If you're creating from the emotion, remember there's a difference between from the emotion in the sense of emotional relevance or emotional presence. I create from emotion all day. I create from emotion all day. It's like, give an example. Motherfuckers right now are talking about the moon is in Aries and Mercury's went direct. People are talking about Mercury retrograde brought up a whole bunch of things. The planets are the inner systems of me anyway. So when Mercury's in retrograde, that's my intellect. That's my mind. That's for me in my sign setup, it's my mind. That's my mind. So whatever's coming up is aspects of my mind. So when it goes direct in my life, when it now goes direct, what would that mean? That means it's directly I'm going to take, when it's in retrograde, that means I'm assessing. When it's in direct, that means I'm either going to take direct accountability or I'm not going to take direct. I'm going to go direct assumption. And you can see when you taking that you taking that direct assumption, because now you stuck in what to think. You look at your chart. You're looking at, ooh, this is what I am. This is what I must be. You're looking at what to think, not how to think. You're stuck in that thought process of your past. That's why that happened to me when I was little. I ride in the emotion, not on the emotion. See, when you riding on the emotion, it becomes something as similar as like, don't talk to me when I'm angry. You know not to deal with me when I'm angry. You know what I say, I'm cutthroat when I'm angry, and all of these things. So now you created a barrier. Not a boundary, it's a barrier. Me sitting in that space with myself of anger is me assessing why I'm angry. What led to my anger? What gave me the aspects of my anger? So now when I'm inside my space. Now I can create the boundaries. Because my boundaries are healthy based on me learning into the space. The boundary has to filter to it naturally. So when something comes into my space based on anger or something that is triggering my anger, instead of me going to my go-to, which is my what to think, I go to my how to think. What is this making me? And I go through that feeling process. I feel it, deal with it, go to that shadow, go to that dark space. Stop going into that fear of, man, I don't like going into that space. Because your fear of going into the darkness is your fear of going into your own vulnerability. And you can see that reflection based on what to think whenever you get sensitive around people. I don't want my kids to see me cry. I don't want no one to see me cry. I don't want nobody to see me like this. But you got to remember, when you're saying that, you got to put yourself at the top of that list. Not the middle of the list, not the bottom of the list. You got to put yourself at the top of that list. Because you're including yourself. You're denying yourself to see yourself. I don't want no one to see me when I get angry. Think about how you say that. Remember, mankind is how you react. Your urge, your pattern, your behavior, your habit, your humanity, your heart, your soul in that, your heart path. Whatever residuals is on your heart path, that's how you use and in your thought process, the subconscious, your God, whatever's your God. So I'm angry. I'm gonna act out because of the residual on my heart, of my moral compass. I'm gonna act out because of this. But who's my God? Not just in the physical aspect. We're talking about in your mental aspect. Because remember, everything is a byproduct of that. So if my mother, I always use this example. My mother took money when I was 8 years old. Took some money from when I was 8 years old. So now the way that I associate money, as my mom is my mom, and how she mastered, she still has residence over that emotion. My mom is my God to that aspect. So everything that I get, every time that I make an offering, it goes through that emotional point. So now the only reason that I can make money is because motherfuckers need something from me. My mom took it, said, man, she must have needed it. How I rationalized it in that space to go forward. So now that's my offering. Similar to when you think about your job. Your job gives you everything based on you. It's their offering to you. That's their offering. I thought about when you really think about your job. So they give you an offering. You got a choice to take the offering. When I started taking it, when I remember the first time I took the offering of managing, and I was like, this is not what I want. Based on the old perception, I was like, I've told this story before in lectures. If you looked at me 5 years ago, about 5 years ago, if you told me that I'd be sitting here with a beard, my locks, doing what I'm doing now, I look at you like I was crazy. Whatever your reaction is your God. Whatever your reaction is your God. When we think about money is the byproduct of, if I make money by it's like, okay, use this. If a stripper makes money being a stripper, the reason that she became a stripper, or the emotional wound, that's her God. That childlike neglect, that traumatic experience, that's her God. Peace. That's her God. That traumatic experience, that becomes your God. That becomes your fundamentals. To why you became, I'm independent, I'm a real nigga. Those are your fundamentals. Everything you created around that space, in your humanity of your compass, in your crossroads, that you lay claim to, that's the results of that. So you can live inside of your urge. You live inside of your root chakra. You live inside of your you live inside of your sacral chakra, your solar plexus. You never get to the heart. You never get to the path of your heart. Something's always there to stop you from putting your heart into something. So all you putting in is the residual aspects of your heart, something that you've already done. Stuck in thought, you stuck in the past, you want to keep doing shit in the past. You can't do nothing in the present. You can't create anything presently because you're not in the present. So when things come into your space that challenge you and you automatically call it crazy or it don't work that way, well, I got to worry about this. That is your answer. Exactly, yeah. When I thought about it, when we were thinking about like the gods that are present now, whenever we talk about the gods being present now, and you're thinking about the earthbound gods, the gods that are locked down here, when you think about the Orishas, Shango, all of these earthbound gods in that space, when you really think about them, these are, if they're everything's an aptitude aspect of me, that's what I tap into. It is exactly what I needed to be to keep me in my space, to keep me whether in content or to keep me to expand. So now that I'm looking, I'm like, damn, man, I keep doing the same thing. Why every year, no matter what happens, the same thing happens every year? Because I'm not taking accountability. What am I not taking accountability of? Remember, all this shit is a byproduct of the emotion. So no matter what you say, it's always going to go back to the emotion. That's the energy and motion. That's what it's going to go back to. It's always going to go back to the emotion. The unassessed, I don't have discipline over my emotions. So I can't really do anything or expand myself because I don't have discipline over that emotional set. That emotional setting is what I need to have control over. I need to have authority over. One of the spreads that I don't really promote, one of my deeper spreads that I do is an emotional authority spread. It's 70-70. It's a very deep spread. It's going through it uses the human design card aspect, and we break it down into that. It's a very deep spread. But it tells you where you're emotional authority over. When you wake up, who's your emotional authority? Anger? Fear? The fear-based narrative or the love-based? Who's your God? So when you're thinking about hell being the lowest state, heaven being the higher state, I run hell. Yes. Discipline, and when we talk about discipline, we're talking about the aspects of consistency. It's assessing my consistencies. Because remember, you're already in consistency. But if I'm stuck in this consistency with myself of, I'm in the lower levels of I'm in the lower degrees of consistency, which means comfort, which means distraction and control. So if I'm seeing everything as a distraction, they're trying to distract me, they're trying to control me, then everything that I'm going to look at, conspiracy theories, when I look on the news, when I look on TV, they hurting black people, they doing all these things, it's because I'm distracted. I need something to keep me, I need something to give me a reason to be angry. I'm already angry. I'm looking for something to keep me insecure because I'm already insecure. I need something to keep me consistently acting this way. But when I go to the higher degree of consistency, which is the disruption, teaches me when to learn discipline, or when to become discipline means to become present. So whenever a disruption comes up, woman gets shot in the a woman gets shot, an older woman gets shot. Why am I feeling that way? My mother, grandmother who raised me, my mother hurt me. It's triggering that. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter the emotion. It's triggering that emotion. It's not what happened. It's the why. It's triggering it. So your relationship with your mother. Because deep down, you still need that love. You still looking for that love from your mother. So you see an older woman, your mom's age, get shot or get strangled in the street. That's what it's triggering. That disruption is forcing you to come present with that emotion. So now you can start assessing it and dealing with it. That blockage or the blockage becomes now when we look at, now think about this aspect. I'm going to build this all the way up. We don't build it. Think about the narrative of black people don't go to therapy. I want you to think about that. Black people don't go to therapy. So many black psychologists, but black people don't go to therapy. Every time that I look at like a show, like last night we was watching one of them true crime shows. Every time that I see when they have the psychologist on there, the white person, they always hit 2 points. They always say it's physical and mental, or they always say it's physical and emotional. They never hit all 3 points. They never hit all 3 points. Because as much as it is mental, that means it's emotional because it became physical to go back into that, to suppress or deal with that mental. That's the trifecta. That's that triangle. That's that 3. That's the occult. See, the other half of the psychology process is the occult, the hidden mind. The hidden mind, the hidden culture. What is my hidden culture? My subconscious. All of my thoughts, how I learned, my learnings, my behaviors. Those all a part of my culture. My culture became whatever it is inside of this darkness or inside of this space that I bring light to. Then you go into the Black Law Dictionary. See how everything, Black Law Dictionary, what's the original definition of black? Is the aspects of the white definition, and it's been switched around because it's been refracted. So now you look, oh shit, the occult. So now when I go into the space, I was like, that's why I took psychology when I went to school. I took psychology and business. But because I was stuck on what to think, and I was like, man, I ain't gonna make no money because black people don't want to go to college. Black people don't go to therapy. So what made the difference now? I started doing my shadow work. When I did my shadow work, when I've done my shadow work, and I'm continuously doing my shadow work, my earlier shadow work made me understand why I needed psychology in my life. Because now I'm looking at my purpose where I'm at now. I provide the services. I provide shadow work therapy. I provide the consultation to shadow work therapy. Every service that I provide is an increment or a tier based into the shadow work therapy. So now when I create my space, now as I've created my space, in that created the space and opportunity, there's multiple ways to get in contact with the information as me being a guide, being in my purpose of where I'm at. So as I now create, everything that I create as the creator, as the titan, what I am, as the creator, everything that I have, every creation has free will. The free will for you to choose the free will for you to choose to click on, and when the live comes up, that's your choice. Because every creation I have has free will. Even when you go into the space, you want to go further, that creation you have the free will and you have the choice. That way I'm not looking based on relevance. I'm already present in the emotion. So everything that comes into my space when I speak, it's impartial based on its own relevance to that presence. See, now I'm changed that gear. Now I go forward. So now when I drop something off, like I'll use an example. There's videos that I dropped 2 years ago on other groups and other pages that still hold to today. If somebody can, where they're at, is like where they at in their self. Like someone hit me the other day talking about that, said like, hey, I listened to your podcast episode, and they were talking about a podcast episode from like my first season. They listened to the first episode that I ever did. And they were like, yo, that really helped me that really helped me. I'm gonna keep listening. We're in season 5, episode 1 now. So it doesn't matter I'm not looking at it from a sense of the progress. I'm looking at it through the process. The process keeps me consistently in my discipline. If I'm always in a constant state of looking for the progress, I'm always going to seek that distraction can pop up and it'll hit me in my head. And I'm like, yep, there's my distraction. That can get me to it quicker. I'm going to do it quicker. So I'm stuck back in time. I'm stuck back in the emotion. As you're shifting, trusting your process is going to take accountability. It's not about you avoiding anything. It's not about you avoiding what comes up. It's about you facing it and how you face it. If you need time to step away from some shit, admit that you make that known. That what to think and have you thinking that you got to respond to everything. That what to think, that shortcut. That what to think and have you thinking that you got to respond to everything. That means you got to listen to everything. That means you can't miss anything. That means every conversation that's being had, you ain't looking if it's a progressive conversation. Because you have not, You ain't looking at a process, so you not noting the conversation. You can look and tell in your life. I remember like most of the conversations I was having, the events that I was doing, the things that I was doing in my life, they were not based on progress. They weren't progressive. And it wasn't progressive because I did not understand the process. I'm sitting in a state of wanting to progress, not understanding that it's the process. So what I thought was irrelevant to the process versus how I thought was irrelevant to the progress. So now that I'm sitting in the how to think thought process, how to think, not what to thought, now I'm looking at the process. And I enjoy the process. I take gratitude every time that I wake up to the process. Because every time that I get up, I get to learn something new, do something new, and deal with everything else that comes inside of that space. It's not going to be, when we think about this aspect from the love and light perspective, we're going to think that all I got to do, okay, cool, if I do this, then I do this, and I do this, and I get this. That's not how it works. That's not how it's going to happen. You got to do every intention that you set, every mantra that you set, every ritual that you do requires work. If the amount of work that you put in is what you get out of it. I would be a fool. I would be very foolish to think that if I make one video a day, in this example, one video a day, that would reach. Yeah, I put one video out, I ain't getting no views. Whose fault is that? I posted one video to my page and thought, okay, cool, I only got 800, I'm almost up to 1,000 friends now on Facebook. All them niggas ain't gonna see that shit. I didn't put no hashtags, I didn't put nothing in there. So now I'm worried about relevance and not quality. So now I upgrade. Get invited to a group, now I share the different groups. All right, cool. Now, as I'm doing this and I'm learning the aspects of my day to become more efficient, I use an example. Today, usually I get done around 7:45 with my run, get back to the house, shower, do what I need to do, make my cup of tea. And now, for example, I broke down that video that's in my story and on my in my TikTok, broke it down into minute segments, loaded that up while I was doing this, and I was like, for the first time, I didn't look at what time it was. Cause I used to be like, damn, I got to get the video by 10 o'clock. No, I don't. It's by 11. I got started by 11. The quality of the content ain't gonna change. What's going to come through the download isn't gonna change. The only way that it changes is under the perception of if I'm thinking based on I gotta say it at this time or I gotta say it at that time. Now I'm going backwards, not going forwards. See, as you're going forward, you gotta realize what gear you're in. Because if you keep reverting back to the same old things, guess what you're in? You're in reverse. So all of your thoughts got you in park and got you in neutral. You got to assess what you got in neutral. Before you even get to drive, you got to assess what you got in neutral. And before you even get to the point of reverse, when you get past the point of reverse, you got to see what you got left in park back in your shadow. That's why winning the day is so important. That's what I forgot to say. To win the day, you got to understand the night before, your darkness. Everything in your space is going to be created based on that. Your unresolved creates your space. Once you start dealing with your unresolved, you start seeing results. Don't allow those results to distract you. You're not doing what you're doing to stay the same. Because everything that you want, that you're thinking about stability, you're thinking about structure, you're thinking about growth, all of that is outside of your comfort zone. Inside of your comfort zone is complacency, constriction. You'll seek complacency. You'll seek what's normal. You'll seek what you think is normal. You'll seek what you think is basically, you'll always seek something in constriction because your thoughts got you restricted. Path of your heart got you in that sense of complacency. And now in your root chakra, now you're distracted. See how all of that lines up. But now that I'm outside of the comfort zone, my thoughts constantly give me new thoughts. I'm thinking of new shit. I'm laughing more than I've ever laughed. Even at some serious situations. I'm laughing more. I'm in that better state. Because now every time that I create something inside the space, just sit back, keep working. That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop doing one thing and start doing another thing. That means I added to it. Like, after the video, I got a reading going on later. I got some stuff going on later. I've already made the access to the schedule, but I'm also going to look at these apps I got. I got to look at these apps. I got to look at these banking credit apps. I got stuff I got to do. But that's all a part of my process because I'm now open to the space. See, when I was stuck on one route, I would look at one thing and not understand how it connected to everything else. So you got one thing and you think it don't connect to everything else. Everything you do got a connection to it. All of that shit weaves together into the creation process. All of that shit's weaved together. But if you're looking at it, that because this happened, it ain't got nothing to do with this, you're sadly mistaken. It all got something to do with each other. That's why it's there. But again, Papaluz Pasam di Muerte. I desire you to be the best. Healing is destructive. You're deserving, but you're not entitled. Once you accept the honesty that you are not entitled, that's one of those levels when you start to be able to do that work. Whether it's a book of reading, consultation, going further with things that we're doing, Natal Chart, human design, any of these aspects, hit me up in the inbox. This week's episode of the God Hour podcast is streaming now. Tune into that. We got into that free initiative, the free incentive, the distractions of comfort. You want accountability. You want credibility for without an account, like going to the bank. Going to a bank just because the check done on it and you mad because you got to pay a fee. Going into a space and you mad about what you're investing, but you ain't taking value into your investments. Remember, you can know the price for everything, but if I don't understand my internal value, the shit's worthless. That means I can know the price for a book. The Black Law Dictionary, for example, is $300 to $400. I know the price of the book, but it's my value inside of learning myself that puts me in the fear of that price. So to me, it becomes worthless. So what will I seek? The discount, the shortcut, the halfway. I'll skip steps. But the reason that came up was to trigger me into taking that next step. Stop being scared to take the step. I love you. We love us. Ashe.